It's time to take a look at bad songs that made it to number 1. This week, we'll discuss the groovy 70s. 10. Minnie Riperton, Loving You.
Loving you is just a dream come true.
Say what you will about Minnie Riperton's song Loving You, but you have to admit that she could hit some seriously high notes. At Mariah Carey's absolute best, she would have difficulty reaching the places that Minnie effortlessly hit in Loving You. Riperton's daughter is actress Maya Rudolph. Riperton even wrote some of the Loving You melody as a song for Maya, and can be heard singing her name on the long version of the song. Sadly, Minnie died of cancer in 1979 when she was just 31. 9. You're 16. Written by the Sherman Brothers. It was first performed by American rockabilly singer Johnny Burnett, whose version peaked at number 8 on the US Billboard Hot 100 in December 1960.
You're 16?
Yes, I do. You're 16.
Peaches and cream, lips like strawberry wine. You're 16. You're beautiful and you're mine.
Song was covered by Ringo Starr in 1973, and this version reached number 1 in the US. You're 16, you're beautiful, and the 33-year-old guy singing this to you is a pervert.
Oh, you're my angel divine. You're 16. You're beautiful and you're mine.
8. Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods, Billy Don't Be a Hero. Pop group Paper Lace wrote Billy Don't Be a Hero at the tail end of the Vietnam War, but it's actually about the American Civil War. But much like MASH was about the Korean War but really about Vietnam, people will forever associate Billy Don't Be a Hero with Vietnam. They'll also associate it with insipid 1970s drivel. Paper Lace were planning on releasing the song in America, but Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods beat them to it. It was their only hit. 7. Terry Jacks, Seasons in the Sun.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend. We've known each other since we were 9 or 10.
You guys really have it out for mid-1970s soft rock. This one is another song about a tragedy. Billy Don't Be a Hero is about a woman begging her boyfriend to be safe while fighting the Civil War, and Terry Jacks' 1974 megahit is about a dying person saying goodbye to his loved ones. The song was written by poet Rod McEwen in the early 1960s and first made a hit by Belgian singer Jacques Brel in 1961. The version by Terry Jacks hit number 1 around the world in 1974, but Jacks largely retired from music just a few years later.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the hills that we climbed were just seasons out of time.
6. Rupert Holmes, Escape. The last number 1 hit in the 70s was the first number 1 hit of the 80s. This is the one song on the list that some people might actually appreciate on some level. Holmes was inspired to write Escape, the Pina Colada song, when he saw a want ad in the paper. He wondered what would happen if he responded to it, only to discover it had been placed by his own wife. The lyrics originally went "If you like Humphrey Bogart." At the last minute he changed it to Pina Coladas, a drink he didn't even particularly enjoy. The couple in the song both agree to meet at O'Malley's bar, and don't seem all that miffed to discover they were both trying to cheat on each other. Instead, they discover they both love pina coladas, being caught in the rain and making love at midnight. It's like a modern-day O. Henry story. Maybe those should be called O'Malley stories now. Holmes had another hit in 1980 with him, but after that his pop career pretty much went to crap. He's had far more success in recent years as a playwright.
If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, then I'm the love that you've looked for. Write to me and escape.
5. The Captain and Tennille, Muskrat Love.
Muskrat, muskrat, candlelight, doing the town and doing it right in the
I really have to hand it our readers on this one. The Captain and Tennille clearly deserve a spot on this list, but you didn't go for the obvious choice with Love Will Keep Us Together or Do That to Me One More Time. No, you wisely went with Muskrat Love, by far their hit that's aged the worst. The song, originally called Muskrat Candlelight, was written by obscure country rock artist Willis Allen Ramsey in 1972. America covered it in 1973, and the Captain and Tennille cut their own version of it in 1976. The song isn't some sort of analogy. It's about actual muskrats falling in love. They played it at the White House in 1976 when Queen Elizabeth II came for a visit. It's unclear why the Ford administration thought that was a good idea. If they came a year later, Jimmy Carter would have probably pulled in a better act. Anyway, the Captain and Tennille rarely perform together these days, but they're still happily married. They're one of the few pop duos in history to actually have a long-lasting personal relationship. 4. Debbie Boone, You Light Up My Life.
So many nights I'd sit by my window.
You don't hear it much these days, but You Light Up My Life was actually the single biggest song of the 1970s. It spent 10 weeks at number 1, a record not beaten until 1991 when Boyz II Men stayed on top for 13 weeks in 1991. The song was written as a love song, but Pat Boone's daughter Debby always interpreted it as a song about her devotion to God. The song was written by Joe Brooks, who was arrested in 2009 on charges that he lured 11 women to his apartment with the promise of a movie audition, and then sexually assaulted them. He committed suicide before the case went to trial. Around the same time this was all going down, his son Nicholas was arrested for murdering his girlfriend. The New York tabloids had a field day with the two cases. Knowing all that, it's hard to listen to the song in quite the same way.
Light up my life, you give me hope.
3. Paul Anka, You're Having My Baby.
Having my baby. What a lovely way of saying how much you love me.
Nobody disputes the fact that Paul Anka is a brilliant songwriter. The man wrote My Way, for God's sake. That beat alone earns him a spot on the Songwriters Hall of Fame. But in the summer of 1974, he released You're Having My Baby, an uber-saccharine song about a man overjoyed about the news that his wife is pregnant. The song hit home for a lot of Americans, and it gave Anka his first number 1 since 1959's Lonely Boy. It's aged about as well as a bucket of sweet and sour pork. New life was breathed into the tune in 2009 when it was featured on Glee. Finn sang it to Quinn while having dinner with her parents. At the time, he didn't know that Patrick was the real father and that Quinn's dad would throw her out of the house after hearing the news.
2. Starland Vocal Band, Afternoon Delight.
Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight.
It's hard to hate on a song about the joys of midday sex, but the Starland Vocal Band make it easy. The group was composed of 2 real-life couples that probably enjoyed some afternoon delights around the time of the song's release in 1976, though both couples have long since divorced. The song hit number 1 in the summer of 1976 and actually got the group a brief variety series on CBS the next year. They also won a Grammy for Best New Artist, as opposed to, say, the Ramones or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers or the many other great bands that started that year. The song got renewed attention when it was featured on Glee recently with guest star John Stamos.
Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Having 6 and souls together makes a spark ignite.
1. Rick Dees, Disco Duck.
Went to a party the other night. All the ladies were treating me right.
Rick Dees was a Memphis DJ who spun so many disco songs that he decided to record his own parody of the genre in 1976. He never imagined that Disco Duck would reach number 1 on the Hot 100 and briefly make him a household name. The song was a hit everywhere in America besides Memphis, whose radio stations didn't want to promote a rival, and Rick's own station refused to play it. He continued to release novelty songs in the late 1970s and early 1980s, but they failed to find an audience. Then Weird Al came around with Eat It and Dees just couldn't compete. Weird Al wasn't going to keep Rick Dees down though. He started the Rick Dees Weekly Top 40 in 1983 and it's still going strong.
Look at me, I'm the disco
That was our look at the worst number 1 songs of the 70s. Did you agree with our list? What was your least favorite song of the disco era? Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise also in the comments. Share this video so I can get more views and, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Until next time, this is Kevin Gibbon saying live long and prosper. May the force be with you and keep reaching for the stars.